Imagine you're walking past this sprawling century-old mansion on the absolute best street in
Oh,
town.
like total pristine landscaping, marble columns gleaming in the sun.
Exactly. I mean, from the outside, it looks like the literal picture of permanent, unshakable wealth. You'd think it's going to stand there for another 100 years.
Right. But then you open that heavy oak front door,
Yeah?
and you immediately realize the floors have been completely ripped out, like the walls are hollow.
Just totally gutted.
Yeah, the copper wiring has been stripped, the entire foundation has been mortgaged to the absolute brink of collapse, and the bank is already changing the locks.
It's wild, and welcome to today's deep dive because we are looking at a business collapse so rapid and honestly so catastrophic, it almost defies logic.
It really does.
I mean, in a span of just 13 months, a $2.7 billion merger of three of America's most storied luxury retailers, Saks Fifth Avenue, Neiman Marcus, and Bergdorf Goodman, it completely evaporated.
Evaporated. They filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, holding, get this, $4.9 billion in debt,
Ugh. And leaving over 100 vendors utterly stranded.
which is just a stunning reversal of fortune.
Yeah.
I mean, how does a powerhouse collective known as Saks Global, right, controlling the most premium retail real estate in the country, just disintegrates in just over a year?
Right, and to figure that out, we are turning to this incredible roadmap published in Forbes. It's titled 7 Ways Saks Global Chose Bankruptcy Over Luxury Retail series finale.
Such a great piece.
It really is. And before we get into the wreckage, we need to establish exactly who is guiding this postmortem for us, because the author's background is really what makes this analysis so penetrating. The piece was written by Lilian Raji.
Yes, and she is not just, some outside observer looking at spreadsheets.
Bueno.
She is a global luxury communications advisor, a fractional CMO, and the president of the Lilian Raji Agency.
Right, where for over 2 decades she served as a trusted strategic advisor for some of the world's leading luxury brands.
Exactly. Plus, she's also the founder of the PR Advisor.
Which is such a cool platform.
It is. It offers communications guidance for emerging to mid-sized brands. And her Forbes column, The Pursuit of Luxury, it specifically examines how these brands use emotional marketing to capture their deeply passionate customers.
And that unique vantage point is so critical for our mission on this deep dive, because we are going to unpack the 7 key lessons from her analysis.
Right, to understand how prioritizing cold financial engineering over the fundamental emotional covenant of luxury retail led to this.
To one of the most spectacular retail failures in history.
Yep.
And beyond just the retail sector, we're going to look at what no matter what industry you are sitting in right now, can learn from this about brand integrity, leverage, and long-term value creation.
So true.
So let's unpack this. To understand how the house collapsed, we really first have to look at how the foundation was mortgaged.
Right. And her analysis points to this fundamental misunderstanding by leadership about what business they were actually operating.
Yeah, like what game are we even playing here?
Exactly. So the CEO of this enterprise, Richard Baker, he came to retail from the world of commercial real estate.
Okay.
And realistically, he never left that mindset. He approached a heritage luxury department store the same way a real estate developer approaches, like a suburban strip mall.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was all about leveraging square footage as a financial asset, extracting maximum value, and minimizing payouts to contractors.
But wait, let me push back on that for a second.
Sure.
Isn't ruthless financial efficiency exactly what modern management is supposed to do? I mean, when you take over a legacy company, you're supposed to optimize the assets. Why is it suddenly a bad thing to maximize the value of your real estate?
It's because of the mechanism of how that value is extracted.
Yeah.
Let's look at exactly what Baker did here.
Okay.
Within a year of acquiring Saks Fifth Avenue back in 2013, he took out a $1.25 billion mortgage against the Fifth Avenue flagship store.
$1.25 billion. Wow.
Yep, which had been appraised at $3.7 billion. Now, in commercial real estate, pulling equity out of a building to fund other ventures is totally standard practice.
Right. You leverage the asset.
Exactly. But in retail, that building is your primary operating engine. When you saddle that single store with massive debt payments, the cash flow that's supposed to go toward buying incredible inventory or hiring top-tier staff.
Or just creating a luxurious environment.
Exactly. All of that is suddenly diverted just to pay the bank.
It fundamentally starves the core business.
It really does.
It makes me think of, like, buying a rare vintage Ferrari.
Okay, I like this.
Like, you don't buy a Ferrari to show it at Pebble Beach or race it on a track. You buy it just so you can use it as a 247 Uber to generate daily cash flow.
Oh man, that hurts to even think about.
Right. Sure, you're technically monetizing the asset, but you are actively destroying the underlying mystique, the engine, and the actual value of the car in the process.
That is the perfect way to look at it. And Lilian details how Baker ran this exact same asset stripping playbook on Hudson's Bay Company previously.
Right. And for those unfamiliar with the term, asset stripping is basically when an investor buys a company and immediately sells off its most valuable individual pieces.
Like the real estate.
Yeah, or specific sub-brands, and they do it just to enrich themselves or pay down the acquisition debt, leaving the actual operating business as this hollowed-out shell.
Yep. And he tried to extend this exact leverage mindset into the ill-fated Saks-Neiman Marcus merger.
Right, the big merger.
The strategy was to combine these struggling retailers to control roughly 55% of the U.S. wholesale luxury market.
That's a huge chunk.
It is. And the thought process was, hey, if we control the majority of the floor space, we hold all the cards.
Right.
We can dictate the terms, the margins, the placements to the massive luxury brands.
Which leads to one of the absolute most revealing moments in the entire saga.
Well, this is the best part.
It involves Bernard Arnault, the head of LVMH, often referred to in the industry as the Cashmere Wolf.
Such a great nickname.
It's so good. So Baker attempts to use his new 55% market share to push back against LVMH's brand terms, treating them like a vendor who basically has no other choice but to comply.
And Arnault's response is just legendary.
Tell them what he did.
He doesn't counteroffer. He doesn't call a boardroom meeting to hash it out. He simply pulls his entire $15 million Louis Vuitton operation completely out of the Saks store in New Orleans.
Packs it.
Packs it up, walks out the door, and opens his own standalone boutique right next door.
Literally right next door. It's so aggressive, but it beautifully illustrates a core law of this industry.
Yeah.
The brand holds the power, not the retailer.
Exactly. Arnault has spent decades building a vertically integrated model. He controls his production, his supply chain, and his direct relationship with the customer.
Right.
Specifically, so he never has to negotiate with a middleman who views Louis Vuitton as just like a metric for optimizing square footage.
Yeah. So Baker turns the physical buildings into these highly leveraged debt vehicles. But that intense financial pressure doesn't just stay in the C-suite.
No, it trickles down fast.
It immediately bleeds onto the sales floor. Which brings us to the second major lesson here. When you squeeze your vendors to service your debt, you are ultimately squeezing out your own customers.
Yeah, the leadership at Saks Global began treating their vendor relationships as cost centers rather than recognizing them as their primary source of brand equity.
Which is fatal in luxury.
Completely. And the analysis features these insights from a designer, Hadley Paulett, who highlighted how smaller, highly creative designers experience this pressure.
Right.
They initially think getting their pieces into a major department store is, making it to the big leagues.
It's the dream.
Right. But then they run the actual margin requirements and realize they are surrendering all their creative power and profitability just to be on the floor.
And if you treat your creative partners as pesky expenses to be minimized rather than value creators to be cultivated, they simply stop shipping you their best merchandise.
Or they just stop shipping to you entirely.
Exactly. And it wasn't just the small independent designers getting squeezed here. This extraction strategy alienated the absolute pinnacle of the luxury food chain.
Oh, yeah. We have to talk about Chanel.
Well, we have to. So Chanel was Saks Global's largest unsecured creditor at the time of the bankruptcy filing.
They were owed $136 million.
Which is just an unfathomable amount of money. And let's clarify what unsecured creditor means mechanically here, because it's genuinely terrifying for a business.
Oh, absolutely.
Chanel essentially fronted Saks $136 million worth of handbags, clothing, and cosmetics on the faith that they would be paid back after the goods were sold.
Right.
But because the debt is unsecured, there's no collateral backing it up. So in a bankruptcy, the banks who hold the mortgages, they get paid first.
Yep. And Chanel is standing at the back of the line, potentially looking at pennies on the dollar for a massive amount of prime inventory.
And how did Chanel respond to this toxic environment? They took their prestige and migrated it right over to a dedicated shop-in-shop within Bloomingdale's.
Yep. When the industry's most coveted, traffic-driving brand decides that your competitor's model is a safer, more hospitable environment than your heavily leveraged warehouse. Your financial strategy has officially failed.
Completely failed. You have extracted the soul out of your own business.
Yeah.
And I really want you listening right now to think about your own business or career. Like, are you operating in a way that treats your key partners and suppliers as easily replaceable cogs?
Right. Or are you cultivating them because they provide your actual differentiation?
Exactly. Because if you think you can just swap out quality for convenience and still charge a premium, you are going to run into the exact same wall Amazon did.
Oh, the Amazon comparison in Lilian's piece is incredibly sharp. Amazon spent almost 2 decades trying to force its way into the high-end luxury market.
2 decades.
Yeah. I mean, they had the ultimate scale. They hired prestige talent, built these glossy photography studios, they sponsored the Met Gala, created invite-only digital storefronts.
They threw everything at it.
And despite all that capital, they could not win over the heritage brands.
Because Amazon is a machine built entirely on the premise of convenience.
Right.
2-day delivery, one-click purchasing, frictionless returns.
Exactly. Amazon kept asking the logistical question. How do we get luxury brands onto our platform? They failed to ask the psychological question.
Which is what?
What does the luxury customer actually desire? The customer spending $5,000 on a handbag does not want it treated like a bulk order of paper towels just thrown into a cardboard box and left on a porch.
Right. They value curation, they value discovery, they value the emotional weight of the transaction over sheer logistical speed.
There is a quote from retail consultant Peter Smith in the article that sums it up perfectly. He says, "Absent emotion, this business has no reason to exist."
Wow. Absent emotion, this business has no reason to exist.
Yeah, if you strip out the emotion, you aren't building a prestige business. You are just running a very expensive, highly inefficient warehouse.
And that really brings us to the most fatal error Saks Global made. Squeezing the vendors removed their product differentiation, but they compounded that by actively removing their human differentiation.
Right. They completely dismantled what luxury customer experience designer Megan Hayes calls the invisible architecture of luxury.
The invisible architecture. I want to spend some time on this because it is such a brilliant concept. What exactly are we talking about here?
So it's the invisible, highly calibrated choreography of service. It is the deep investment in people, systems, and institutional memory that makes a customer feel that dropping $13,000 in a single afternoon is not just justified, but an inevitable, delightful experience.
And Saks just took a sledgehammer to that architecture.
They really do.
The data shows they systemically purged their highly experienced store veterans. We were talking about people like Larry Bruce, who had been there nearly 2 decades,
Right.
and John Cruz, who had run the New York flagship, Beverly Hills, and handled the company's absolute top client relationships since 1994.
It's crazy.
They pushed out that profound, decades-deep expertise and replaced the floor with a concession model.
Let's actually define the concession model because it sounds like a minor operational shift, but it radically alters the customer experience.
Yes, please. Is a concession model just like a brand setting up their own little mini shop inside the larger store?
Mechanically, yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of the department store's buyers going to Milan or Paris, curating the best pieces from 20 different designers and training their own staff to sell them, the department store simply acts as a landlord.
Oh, I see.
They lease a patch of floor space to Gucci or Prada. Gucci brings in its own inventory, hires its own staff, and just pays Saks a percentage of sales.
Which looks incredibly safe and efficient on a financial spreadsheet. You offload the inventory risk and the payroll costs, but what do you lose?
You lose the department store's only remaining superpower, which is objective, cross-brand curation by an expert human. If I walk into a store, I don't want a brand employee telling me why their specific brand is the best. I want a trusted advisor who can pull a jacket from one designer, shoes from another, and explain why they work together for my specific lifestyle.
There's an amazing anecdote about this from John McDarren, a former style advisor at Saks in Chicago.
Oh, this story is so good.
So he's showing a client some high-end earrings and a ring, and the customer challenges him, asking point blank, "Why would I buy jewelry at a department store instead of a dedicated jeweler?"
And he doesn't even flinch.
Not at all. He waves his hand grandly across the floor and says, "Because we represent the finest jewelers in the world within these walls." And he immediately closes the sale.
That interaction illustrates something fundamental. McBaron closed that sale because he anticipated her skepticism. He had the quiet confidence of having made that exact case 100 times over his career, and he knew precisely the tone and phrasing that would shift her perspective from doubt to prestige.
And you cannot program that intuition into an algorithm. It pushes back so hard on modern management's obsession with tech solutions. Like, a CRM software dashboard is basically just a high school yearbook.
Huh? That's true.
Right? Like, it has a photo, it tracks the purchase history, it spells the name right, but it has absolutely no idea who the customer actually likes, what mood they are in today, or what subtle insecurities drive their purchases.
Exactly.
Can an iPad ever replace a seasoned sales associate who intuitively knows that a specific client responds eagerly to the word investment, but will literally walk out the door if you use the word discount?
The short answer is no. But rather than protecting that human element, Saks Global compounded the purge of their veterans with a catastrophic structural decision regarding their technology.
Right.
In 2021, they legally separated a Saks Fifth Avenue website into a standalone, completely separate e-commerce entity.
Just to attract venture capital and tech sector investment multiples.
Yep.
It is that financial engineering creeping back in again. But mechanically, how does splitting the website from the physical store actually ruin the experience for the shopper?
Because it instantly misaligns the incentives of every employee in the building. When the physical store and the website are separate companies, they operate on separate balance sheets.
Okay.
So imagine you're a customer in the physical store. You want a dress, but they only have it in blue and you really want black. You ask the sales associate if they can order the black one online for you.
Ah, I see where this is going. If the website is a different company, the physical sales associate doesn't get a commission for an online sale?
Precisely. You have just actively incentivized your own floor staff to hide digital inventory from the customer.
Wow.
They will try to force you to buy the blue dress, or they just won't help you at all. The website didn't know what the local stores had in stock. The store associates viewed the website as a direct competitor, stealing their commissions.
And the customer is just left to fall into the frustrating gap between the two.
Yep. They totally dismantled the seamless journey.
So if you trade human cross-brand curation for a fragmented concession model, and you intentionally break your own digital to physical pipeline, the customer has zero reason to stay.
None. They will just walk out the door and go to the standalone designer boutique down the street, where the service is actually cohesive and the staff wants to help them.
So you strip away the top-tier inventory by squeezing your unsecured creditors. You strip away the service by firing your most deeply connected veterans to save on payroll.
Yeah.
And you strip away the seamless experience by siloing your tech for investment multiples. What is the inevitable result?
You are left with a dying ecosystem.
Ah.
And this is where the cold, hard math finally catches up with the real estate strategy.
Yeah. The piece dives into this demographic death spiral. Every retail customer base has a natural, unavoidable attrition rate.
Right. High net worth people age out of their peak spending years, they relocate, their lifestyle shift, or frankly, they pass away.
And this attrition is particularly dangerous because it is largely invisible. Your highest value clients do not call a board meeting to announce their departure.
No, they just quietly stop visiting.
But the CEO at the time, Mark Metrick, was publicly boasting about Saks Global having 30 million names in their database, treating that list like an impenetrable fortress.
Which is wild because having 30 million names on a server is entirely irrelevant if you do not have a proactive strategy to replenish the ones naturally aging out.
Exactly.
Saks doubled down on data-driven personalization to extract more money from an aging core demographic that was literally shrinking year by year. They completely failed to create environments that attracted the younger, aspirational customers who needed to be cultivated into that next generation of high-value spenders.
It is the equivalent of a farmer who just keeps endlessly harvesting the exact same acreage year after year, completely exhausting the soil and aggressively refusing to ever plant a single new seed.
That's exactly what it is.
How do seasoned executives become so blind to this natural erosion? Like, is it just pure hubris, or is it a fatal flaw in how corporate incentives work? Modern leadership just seems to prioritize immediate quarterly data, milking the current database, over the slow, generational cultivation that luxury requires.
Well, the market data clearly points to the latter.
Yeah.
Contrast Saks with the competitors highlighted in Lilian's analysis, Nordstrom and Bloomingdale's.
Okay.
While Saks was financially engineering its debt, Nordstrom and Bloomingdale's were investing in discovery. They brought in emerging culturally relevant designers.
Right.
They created experiential physical spaces,
Yeah.
specifically designed to bring younger shoppers through the doors and introduce them to the brand ecosystem.
And the financial results do not lie. The data notes that in the second quarter of 2025, both Nordstrom and Bloomingdale's grew their businesses by more than 10%.
Wow.
In that exact same economic environment, with the exact same macroeconomic headwinds, Saks Fifth Avenue fell 16% year over year.
16%.
And in June 2025 alone, their revenue was down a staggering 28%.
It just emphatically proves the point
Mhm.
that more product information, like more data points in a CRM, will not move people. But more people information, genuine human understanding and connection will move more product.
Absolutely.
A customer base isn't a static financial asset that you can securitize and monetize indefinitely. It is a living, breathing ecosystem.
Yeah.
When you treat your clients simply as a guaranteed revenue stream to service a mortgage, the math will eventually and brutally catch up with you.
Which brings us to the ultimate Shakespearean irony of this entire saga. The final lesson brings us right back to where we started, the cashmere wolf, Bernard Arnault.
Oh, this is poetic justice right here. The very man Richard Baker tried to bully and outleverage with his 55% market share.
Exactly. Baker tried to use debt, mergers, and developer math to force Arnault into submission. And now, as Saks Global sits in a bankruptcy court, drowning in $4.9 billion of wreckage, trying to figure out how to pay off Chanel and 100 other vendors who is quietly circling the waters.
The wolf.
The wolf. It is an open secret in the industry that LVMH has long coveted Bergdorf Goodman. It is the absolute crown jewel, the one iconic Fifth Avenue address that would complete Arnault's global luxury universe.
The contrast in strategies is staggering. Arnault wins because he plays an infinite customer-centric game.
Right.
He doesn't need to win a shouting match over wholesale margins in a boardroom. He simply builds vertical value, maintains his brand integrity, and just outlasts the people relying on short-term spreadsheets and financial leverage.
Yeah, and when the price is right and the moment is his, he just calmly walks through the door they left open on their way out. The executive who tried to out-leverage the market may end up handing the most valuable jewel in his destroyed portfolio directly to his biggest rival.
It is an absolutely fascinating collapse.
It really is. So let's synthesize this for you. The profound analysis across these 7 lessons proves one undeniable truth. True luxury, and frankly, any premium business, is not just a product category or a real estate play.
No, it's a covenant.
It is a covenant. It is a deeply held promise built on trust, impeccable curation, and genuine human connection.
And when leadership attempts to replace that fragile covenant with aggressive financial engineering, asset extraction, and tech multiples designed entirely to appease private equity investors rather than serve the client.
The market will eventually correct you.
Exactly.
We have only scratched the surface of the granular details in this analysis. To read the incredible full breakdown of this historic collapse, you need to head over to Forbes and search for Lilian's article.
Yes, and to dive even deeper into her brilliant, ongoing analysis of the mechanics of the luxury industry, you absolutely must visit her website at www.lilianraji.com.
Yep, lilianraji.com.
You can also connect with her directly on LinkedIn and follow her insights on Instagram and YouTube. It is genuinely required reading for anyone interested in how brand value is actually built and destroyed.
Definitely. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over regarding your own industry. We have spent this time exploring how the absolute highest tier of commerce relies entirely on the unscalable, inefficient magic of genuine human connection, seasoned intuition, and emotional resonance.
Right.
So what does that mean for the broader business world's current relentless obsession with artificial intelligence and infinite digital scale?
That is the million-dollar question.
If true prestige and premium pricing require the deeply human touch, can it ever actually be automated?
A phenomenal question, and definitely worth a deep dive of its own down the road.
For sure. Until next time, keep looking past the facade.